I'm familiar with this old building. It's Pierpont Elementary School, and my dad was principal here for many years. And I played in the gym, and I went to all of the fire department chicken and fish dinners and that sort of thing. So it brings back a lot of memories. The funeral home in Pierpont dates to 1881, when the Waters Funeral Home was started in another location, was taken over by Don and Rose Childs in 1953, and then Bernard Bud Williams and Ducro Funeral Services, who moved it to the former Pierpont High School and then elementary school in May. Buckeye Local Schools closed the school at the end of the 2008-2009 school year. It was bought by Cameron Wright of Wright Farms, a seventh-generation Pierpont farming family, in 2010, in hopes of preserving it. He says locating the funeral home in part of the building will anchor future development of the building, located on Route 7.
This area you're looking down was the main corridor hallway for the south wing of the school building. And I believe this end of the school building had the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades, and I think the library was here too. As usually when I hear people come through for calling hours, those are usually the classrooms that I hear them talking about. So the hallway is pretty much the same. It might be a little bit more narrow because we had to put a firewall up on the one side that took about 6 to 8 inches. But other than that, it's pretty much.
And it was full of lockers at one time.
Yeah, that's right. We did take all the lockers out. We didn't need those.
So that would make it a little wider.
Yeah, that gave a little more room. But it's nice to have. You never have too much width in a hallway because it always seems that people try to gather in the hallway and it gets congested.
Where did the idea come from to take over the school for a funeral home?
Well, Cameron had approached me a few years back about, because I had tried to move the funeral home several times over the course of the years that I owned it. And when Cameron purchased the school about 4 or 5 years ago, he approached me. Cameron Wright. Okay. When he purchased the school about 4 or 5 years ago, approached me about possibly moving down here and being a tenant for him. So, and then when I merged the business with JP a couple of years ago, I brought it to his attention. We came down and talked with Cameron, and Cameron's been working on the project for about a year and a half.
Yeah, it took a lot longer than
about a year
expected.
And a half, but I am just so pleased that we now have a facility that can really handle the bigger families of Pierpont, because for years and years, it would drive me nuts seeing people down the steps, down the sidewalk in inclement weather, and I can only get so many people in the funeral home at a time. This will accommodate, we could probably seat 200 or 300 people in here if we had to.
So this is handicapped accessible?
Yes, completely.
All one level, all the way around, handicapped restrooms, and
I mean, we had steps at the old facilities. We only had one restroom.
yeah, there's plenty of room.
So did you guys tour this place as a school and say, I can picture this here and that there?
We came in here when it was pretty sad shape. I mean, the looks of it now compared to the way it was is like night and day.
We were saying the other day how much we regret we didn't take some before and after pictures. But it's very hard to visualize, what you can transform it into, and it's really more beautiful than I could ever imagine. Cameron has tremendous taste. There was some warp. Some of the floors were warped up. The wood was bowed on the wood floors. Just very dusty and dirty. There'd been some
pretty
lot of
smelly.
moisture.
Just like a
basement damp.
Yeah, like a basement damp smell to it.
Well, and from our standpoint, I think, we want to see this become, a hub, kind of a community center for the community. I mean, it's never going to be a facility that is, teeming with activity, funeral service related on a daily basis. So if we can have people using it for other purposes, for meetings, for, if somebody has a small, baby shower or a wedding shower or something like that, and they need a place, we're happy to open our doors and make it available for the community, much like the Pierpont Presbyterian Church has for many, many years. And so they don't have to shoulder the burden of that entirely anymore down in this part of the community. And I think as there's more activity in here, that will also make it more practical for other businesses to open up in the rest of the building. And the more businesses that are in the rest of the building, the more beneficial it'll be for us, for people to see the facility that we have available to the community here. So you know, we want to help promote that as much as we can.
So you bought this building, how many years after it closed as a school?
It was December of 2010 when they had the auction, and that's when we purchased it. And it was kind of a last minute decision. We hadn't had any big plans of doing it.
So why did you buy it? What was...
The simple truth was we didn't want it to turn into the same type of mess that the other abandoned schools or closed schools in the county had turned into. We had no ideas of what to do with it at that time.
Do you have any visions for the rest of the building?
Yeah, I'd like to put some commercial office space in, rented space. I'd like to put, my ultimate goal is to put a creamery in to produce my own cheese. That's kind of a little pet project of mine. And possibly a bulk food store, something along that line. I will say that we worked very, very closely with Smolin Engineering, and I gave them sat down with them, with Kurt Goins and John Smolin in their office, and talked about some style concepts and functionality, and said, throw together some pictures, some visualization, and I think they did a very good job on that. They came up with some ideas I thought were very, very practical.
Well, let's see, we're having, our open house is going to be Saturday, September 27th from 10 to 3. We decided to do it Saturday, even though we've been open since May. We opened, Bud. We had our first service here, I think the second week of May. And we've had about a half a dozen services here since. But the Pierpont Fall Festival, which has been an annual event down here in Pierpont, is going to be held that last weekend in September. And it's sort of the closure of the farmers market that they hold every weekend here throughout the summer in front of the school, and they use the parking lot on the other side of the building. We're going to have some light refreshments, going to have some drawings and door prizes. Our horse-drawn hearse will be down here on display for people to see. We're going to house it here in the building also. And then we're going to have, what else is going on with the open house? The fall festival's here. They're having
We're having a breakfast next door to Masonic Lodge.
pancake breakfast next door at the Masonic Lodge. When we were talking about, when we started from scratch on the building, and we're talking about what was going to happen in each of the rooms, that sort of started out more like a multi-purpose room. We really didn't know what we were going to do, but we did think it would be nice to have the horse-drawn hearse located down here. It's sat in a garage uptown. It's been in our family for, probably 20, 30 years. It's not an original family piece, but it was restored by the Amish and is very similar to the horse-drawn carriages we had back in the 1800s.
So you use it like in parades and stuff?
We use it in parades. We'd use it for funerals, but up in Ashtabula, there's not a whole lot of cemeteries that are close to the funeral home that you can pull the horse-drawn hearse from. Most of the burials we have here in Pierpont, for the families we serve, usually end up at Evergreen, which probably is what, a mile down the road, if that?
A mile or two at the most. That's why we thought it'd be great to keep it out here and try to offer it to the Pierpont families, get some use out of it.
And so many of the folks are farmers and, appreciate agriculture. Some of them even have horses, and we thought, if we can have the horse-drawn hearse here, not only will it be a thing that's kind of historic that people can be interested in when they come for calling hours and something to look at, but the practical ability to be able to use it and go right to the cemetery so close, we thought it would get a lot more use out here. So, it's an 1880s or 90s horse-drawn carriage, been fully restored by the Amish, it's really a beautiful piece. The Stasic family, who's a Pierpont family, their black Percherons have usually been the ones to pull for us for many, many years. They were good friends of my father, and now Sam Rettinger is a grandson of Dick and Dottie Stasic, and he really is the one is our point of contact most of the time when we need horses, and they do a beautiful job. We're so grateful to have them help. It really makes it stand out with the matched pair of horses. I know some of their horses have been sold to Arlington to pull the caissons down there, so they're first class.
And also you have the timepiece there, the clock?
That was, that's not really a historic piece, but it does look antique. We had that located at our Jefferson Funeral Home while that was open, and we've been looking for a place for it now, and we thought it would really look nice out by Route 7. So I don't know if that's going to get up within the next week or so, but we plan to have it put out by the sign up close to Route 7 there, so people have a place driving through, they can catch the time if they need to. This was one of the old classrooms. We converted this into a little lounge area, children's area, and for refreshments. You know, we find more and more nowadays people, when they're coming to funeral services, you know, they may have a hard time finding a babysitter for their children, or they want to incorporate their children and keep them with them and keep the family close, and we certainly encourage that. So this is just a little room people can get away from, you know, the hustle and bustle of calling hours. If they're here, they can bring the kids in down at this end. There's a little sofa down there. We're going to put one of the chalkboards up from the old classrooms on the wall that they can draw on, which we thought would be a nice way to preserve some of that history. And then we've just got, you know, coffee, a little fridge here, some light refreshments, and a little table they can sit at. So, you know, again, this is just another little amenity that gives people another place that they can go to utilize for whatever suits their needs the best. The room is set up to sort of make it a little easier and less intimidating for families if they need to make a choice for a casket. The metals are all on one side of the room, sort of organized in a good, better, best fashion, and the hardwoods are on the other side. Each casket has a drawer that goes with it, and inside the drawer there's a picture of the casket open, and then there's a swatch of the fabric upholstery and the sample of what the back panel inside the lid of the casket would look like. And so there's a drawer for the ones on the top, and then there's a drawer for the ones on the bottom that pretty much shows the same thing. So, and then over on this side we have some choices in cremation-oriented caskets that can be used if families prefer cremation, but they still want to have a viewing, or they want something more than just a simple cardboard cremation box. And then these are traditional burial vaults for caskets. Several of the choices that we have available here in those. The other side has cremation urns and some choices in pet cremation urns and keepsakes, and some of our other memento items. So, you know, as we mentioned, there's just a lot of different options available, and we just, you know, use this area to give people an idea of what all those choices are, instead of just having to look at them through a picture book or catalog.